Good afternoon. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Pagani design PD-1701 V3. This watch is available from paganidesign.cn for €104. It's also available from Trendy Men's Watch Store on aliexpress.com for €105 respectively. So firstly, let's look at the box that the watch comes in, and then I'll talk you through the other items one gets with the piece. So the watch comes in this blue EU version of the Pagani design watch box. One removes the lid, and inside there's a foam panel, and the watch sits on a piece of foam inside a foam cutout panel in the base, as one would expect. Although basic, it does suffice in protecting the watch in shipping, and I think it's perfectly acceptable to use this basic style of cardboard watch box, bearing in mind it's a low-tier price point piece at only €104. With the watch, one gets this basic owner's instruction manual, clear concise diagrams. The instructions are in English, and it details the operation of the movement use, which is the Seiko VK63 Mecha Quartz. This is the plastic guarantee card that comes to the watch. As usual, the reverse isn't filled in with the date of purchase, reference number and the dealer's stamp. However, I'm pleased to report the watch is covered by the usual 12-month international warranty. One also gets this Pagani design branded microfiber polishing cloth. I always think it's a nice touch to get a branded microfiber polishing cloth, irrespective of the price point of a piece. And lastly, one also gets this Pagani design branded plastic tag. So with regards to the specifications of the piece, this is the Pagani design PD-1701 V3. I've previously reviewed the V1. The 1701 is available in three versions, V1, V2 and V3 respectively, so I'll explain the differences between those versions. The V1 had silver applied indices, silver hands and a white date wheel with black Arabic numerals. Pagani design then updated to the V2, which had silver applied indices, silver hands and a black date wheel with white Arabic numerals. This is the latest version, the V3, and they've updated to using white printed indices versus silver applied indices, white hands and white hands on the subdials, and it has the same black date wheel with white Arabic numerals as per the V2. So with regards to the dimensions, we have a 42mm case diameter, we have a 47mm lug-to-lug measurement, a thickness of 13.7mm, and a lug width of 20mm. The bracelet tapers from 20mm at the lugs down to 18mm at the 2-button push clasp. And as you can see, the 2-button push clasp is brushed satin finish to a beautiful luster, Pagani design signed to a high standard, engraved. 2-button push triggers have a nice firm resistance. Now, as always, I'm going to be critical of the 2-button push clasp only having 3 micro adjustment holes. I would like to see Pagani design use 4 micro adjustment holes to allow for better tuning the length of the bracelet to get the perfect fit. But having said that, the 2-button push triggers have a nice spring-loaded action. And the interior is solid 316L grade stainless steel, solid milled clasp, brushed satin finish to the top side, underside and flanks, and finished to a very high standard, so very aesthetically pleasing. Now, criticism to the clasp. We have this abhorrent pressed stainless steel diver's extension link. I would prefer to see Pagani design upgrade this to the solid milled diver's extension link, which is like a Rolex EasyLink extension, as used in the 1661, 1662 and 1644, for example. Otherwise, I think it would be better if they deleted this extension, because it really is abhorrent. Although, having said that, it does do the job. It does snap into the body of the clasp with a nice positive click, and it does deploy with a nice positive click. So, although it's not aesthetically pleasing, it is functional and it does work as an extension link. Clasp works very well. It snaps shut with a nice positive click, and I like this style of 2-button push clasp, although it could do with an extra hole. Nice mirror polished chamfer, which is machined to the edge, and the flanks are brushed satin finished to a high standard, and no sharp edges, no sharp corners. It's very well finished. So with regards to the rest of the specification, we have a double dome sapphire crystal, and as you can see, it looks very similar to the Omega Speedmaster Hesalite and also the sapphire crystal they use. I've previously reviewed the Speedmaster, and this does a very good job of replicating that. It's a very good homage to it, very similar dome to the double dome sapphire crystal. Now, the negative of the sapphire crystal is there is no anti-reflective coating. This would really benefit from clear AR coating on the underside, because as you can see, when I tilt the piece at an oblique angle, it is highly reflective. There is a lot of glare, although they have improved this significantly by using matte white hands matte white printed indices and also the matte white hands on the subdials. On the V1 and V2, the highly reflective nature of the double dome sapphire crystal meant that the hands and the silver indices were very shiny and reflective, so in some light conditions it was very difficult to read the time, and also the subdials on the V1 and V2 respectively. This V3 is better because the white hands contrast better with the black dial, and also the subdial hands, which are white, contrast better. I like the enlarged printed white indices. They're more legible and they contrast better than the silver applied indices. I think that this V3 is definitely more legible. One detail I like about the dial is it's not over-branded with unnecessary text and specification. We simply have the Pagani Design brand emblem at 12, Pagani Design, and then chronograph at 12. It's not over-branded with water resistance, for example, and I like it. I think the symmetry of the dial is very good, as per the Speedmaster, which this is an homage to. The size of the subdials is correct, and also they've got the length and proportion of the hands correct. If you look at the minute hand, it's long enough to extend to the minute ticks, and that's very good because often low-tier Chinese brands, including Pagani Design, get the proportions of the hands incorrect. They're too short or they're undersized, but the hour hand is also the right size, and also the chronograph hand, which has an arrowhead tip to it, is the right length. It extends all the way to the minute ticks, as it should do. So with regards to the crown, it's a solid 316L grade stainless steel crown, coin edge finished, mirror polished cap, as you can see, signed to a high standard with the Pagani Design emblem, which has a matte bead blasted background effect. So the screw down crown provides an effective hermetic seal to 100 meters of water resistance, which is perfectly acceptable. Let's test the screw down crown execution. Absolutely silky smooth. This is 10 out of 10 screw down crown execution. It feels silky smooth. Very good interface between the internal thread of the stainless steel crown and the external thread of the stainless steel crown tube. So pulling it out to the first click position is the quick set date complication position. Just bear with me and I'll move the hand out of the way and then you'll be able to see it better. Right, so if you look closely at the date complication between 4 and 5 o'clock, when I rotate the crown clockwise, it activates the quick set complication, and as you can see, one of the things I like about the Seiko VK63 Mecha Quartz is the quick set date has a nice positive indexing. It clicks over to the next day of the month with a nice positive click and works very well, so I really like that aspect. Pulling it out to the second click position is the time setting position, and if you look at the subdial at 3 o'clock, that is the one for the seconds, you can see the movement hacks, so it does have hacking. One can set the time precisely to the second. So we're now in the time setting position, absolutely silky smooth, no resistance to the gearing whatsoever, no friction. It's an absolute pleasure to set the time on the VK63, very pleasant to use. Pushing it back in restarts the movement with a nice positive click, and if you look at the subdial at the 6 o'clock position, you can see it is now beginning to tick around the 6 o'clock subdial once again. So let's test screwing it back down. Immediate thread pickup, outstanding, 10 out of 10 screw down crown execution. Credit where credit's due, because often Pagani Design watches have QC issues such as lack of AR coating and weak lume performance. But one thing they get consistently right across all of their watches is the screw down crown execution. It's outstanding on this 1701 V3. So the screw down crown provides 100 meters of water resistance, which is perfectly acceptable, as do the stainless steel pushers. So let's test the chronograph complications. Stainless steel pushers, mirror polished domed cap. Pressing the top pusher activates the chronograph complication, and you can see the white chronograph hand, which has an arrowhead tip, begins to tick around the dial. Pushing the top pusher once again will stop the chronograph complication. Nice positive click. I like the firm resistance of the VK63 Mecha Quartz. Pushing the lower pusher will activate the flyback complication. That will make the chronograph hand fly back to 12 o'clock. Nice, crisp, positive action. I really like the firm spring-loaded action. And needless to say, the alignment of the VK63 is perfect. It aligns correctly with the 12 o'clock index on the dial. So it's a very reliable and accurate Mecha Quartz movement and the correct choice for this Speedmaster Homage. With regards to the caseback, it's solid 316L grade stainless steel, finished to a good standard, engraved with the specification around the circumference, and also the centre section is engraved with a rocket and also the moon, as you can see, which fits the aesthetic of this being an homage to the Speedmaster moon watch. So I like the quality of the engraving, the concentric CNC lathe tool machining to the exterior portion of it works very well, and it's very smooth. It feels very flat and low profile against the wrist, and therefore it's very comfortable to wear. The stainless steel caseback provides an effective hermetic seal to 100 meters, which is perfectly acceptable, and the end links are a good tight fit to the case. So very well finished caseback and also very aesthetically pleasing. Right, so I'll give you a wrist shots and you can see how it fits on my 8-inch wrist. Now, I haven't sized the bracelet, I've simply taken the watch out of the watch box and I'm pleased to report it fits my 8-inch wrist with no difficulty whatsoever. As you'll know from my previous reviews, I like to size my bracelets loose so that I can always slide an index finger underneath the bracelet and clasp at all times. This allows for wrist expansion in warm weather or when one is active. So this will fit up to an 8-inch wrist, no problem. Now, with regards to the taper, it's 20mm tapering down to 18, so they've made the correct decision by not having a parallel bracelet which doesn't taper. They could have made it 20 to 20. 20 to 18 is a very slight taper, but it does work very well. Had they used 20 to 16, it would have been too much of a taper for a 42mm head of the piece. So 20 is the correct lug width. The proportions are very good. 42mm case diameter, and we have a 47 lug to lug measurement. Now, as you'll know from my previous reviews, I consider 48 to be the sweet spot, regardless of whether you have a 6 to 7 inch wrist or a 7 to 8 inch wrist. At 47, it is close to the sweet spot of 48. So this will fit you even if you have a smaller wrist of 6 to 7 inches, but clearly at 42mm by 47, it's best suited to collectors with a larger wrist of 7 to 8 inches. It's a large piece, it does wear with wrist presence, although it's relatively low profile. It's surprisingly only 13.7mm, including the double dome sapphire crystal, so it will still easily slip underneath a shirt cuff if you wear business shirts. One aspect I really like is the use of the ceramic bezel insert, which is glossy finish, and I actually think it's superior to the look of the aluminium bezel insert used on the Amiga Speedmaster, which this is an homage to. Ceramic is of course more scratch resistant. Credit where credit's due, they've done a good job of inlaying the tachymeter scale and the Arabic numerals with white paint. So it's a very well executed, well finished ceramic bezel insert, and I actually think it's better looking than aluminium. And they deserve credit because they could have used the cost-cutting measure of an aluminium bezel insert, bearing in mind this is an homage to the Speedmaster. Ceramic is more expensive, but it's a superior, harder, more scratch-resistant material. And it's something that Pagani Design do very well. The tachymeter scale on the Speedmaster is done very well, as you can see. So I like the glossy finish of it, and it complements the double dome sapphire crystal. So very good looking piece, and really a very good homage to the Speedmaster because we have the same style Amiga lug. So I really like it. So I think it's a good fit, it's comfortable, and it feels very well balanced at 146 grams with all the links in the bracelet. Now, with regards to the bracelet, this is the weak point of the piece. I would say that this is an excellent head of the piece, but unfortunately it's let down by the build quality and quality control of the bracelet. There is a lot of play in the push pins, as you can see. Every one of the links has extra play, both up and down and lateral side-to-side play. So the bracelet rattles, it feels very slack and sloppy. Now, the end links of the bracelet are female pivoted end links, which is good because they give extra articulation, and they work very well because they give a good fit. But however, again, there is a lot of up and down play and a lot of lateral side-to-side play, so the bracelet rattles in the end link, although the end link itself is a good snug fit to the head of the piece. So there's room for improvements on the quality control, builds quality. As you can see, they really need to tighten up the tolerances because every single link has a lot of play in it and it rattles. I'll just check the other side for comparison. Yes, again, every single one of the push pin links has a lot of play, and the cumulative effect is the bracelet feels sloppy and slack, and it has a lot of rattle in it. Now, with regards to the finishing, the luster on the brushed satin finishing is excellent on the top side, underside and flanks. Brushed satin finishing to the flanks works very well. I would like to see them upgrade to using screw pins rather than push pins. However, one has to expect some cost-cutting measures at only €104. The mirror polishing to the centre links, as you can see, is done very well. There are no sharp edges to the flanks, the edges of the bracelet, but however, there are some sharp edges on the centre links in the bracelet. So as you can see, it's a 5-link bracelet. On the top side, we have 5 links. The 2 outer links are brushed satin finish. The centre links are brushed satin finish. But the other links, the links either side to the centre links, are brushed satin finish on the underside but mirror polished on the top. Now the problem is, on the underside there are sharp edges on the centre links running through the very centre of the 5-link bracelet, and this is on both sides. Now the problem is, they don't catch arm hairs, but what they do is they scratch the wrist. One can feel the sharp edge of the centre links, and it's strange because the edges of the flanks, the edges of the outer bracelet, they don't have sharp edges. They feel smooth, they're deburred to a high standard. But Pagani Design really need to improve the quality of the finishing to the centre links. They need to be deburred and chamfered better in order to remove the sharp edge, because although it doesn't catch arm hair, the centre links do scratch the wrist. And when it's on wrist, when it slides up and down, if you don't size the bracelet tight, for example, when the head of the piece moves about on the wrist, up and down the wrist bone like this, one can feel the sharp edge on the underside of the centre links, both on the left and the right hand side of it, so it has this scratching feeling. It's not as comfortable as it could be, and it's a real shame because the bracelet does look good and it also feels comfortable with the female pivoted end links. The fit is good, the taper is good, the brushed satin finishing and mirror polishing is good. So it just needs improvement on the centre link finishing to remove those sharp edges, and therefore it would enhance the piece. Right, so let's do a lume test and we'll see how the lume performs when it's charged up to the absolute maximum. So as always, I'm going to use my 100 UV LED torch to charge it up to the absolute peak. Right, so that's now fully charged, and as you can see, it hasn't disappointed. This is the kind of performance one would expect with C3 Luminova. They haven't used C3 Super Luminova, and this is something as many collectors would like to see. I would like to see them upgrade to either using BGW9 Super Luminova or alternatively C3 Super Luminova. The problem with using Luminova, as you can see, and this is only 3 to 4 layers of it versus 5 to 6, is that on the printed indices and the baton hands, it's beginning to fade and fade fast, and it will continue to fade quickly to nothing. Now the colour match is very good. The green tone on the baton hands and also the green tone on the printed indices is good. The green is the same tone. So really they need to upgrade to using 5 to 6 layers, and they need to upgrade to using Super Luminova rather than Luminova, which is a clear cost-cutting measure. So really this needs AR coating, and it also needs Super Luminova, either C3 or BGW9. Something that collectors would happily pay more for. For example, if Pagani Design increased the retail price by 5 to 10 euro and they included AR coating and Super Luminova, collectors would happily pay for the extra enhancements, because as you can see on the indices in particular, it's quickly faded to nothing. It's still glowing okay on the baton hands, but they are also beginning to fade very fast, so room for improvement on the Luminova used. Right, so let's discuss the movement used, because it's one of my favourite aspects of the piece. You'll all be familiar with the Seiko VK63 Mecha Quartz. It's used in several other Pagani Design models, so it's reliable, well-proven workhorse movement. It's used in the 1664, the 1644, the 1727 and this 1701. So the VK63 has hacking, as I've demonstrated. One can hack the movement to set the time precisely to the second. Quick set complication on the dates is useful. The VK63 has a stated battery life of 2 years, and the 2-year battery life is based upon you using the chronograph complication for 60 minutes per day. However, in reality, you're highly unlikely to be using the chronograph complication for anything like 60 minutes per day. So therefore, it's nothing unusual for a VK63 battery to last for 3 to 4 years. So potentially you could buy this watch and wear it for 3 to 4 years before needing to change the battery, so that is very good. The stated accuracy is plus or minus 20 seconds per month. So I want you to consider that for a second. That isn't plus or minus 20 seconds per day or per week, that is per month. Better than plus or minus 1 second per day accuracy. So that is exceeding chronometer limits of -4 to +6. To get better than plus or minus 1 second per day is outstanding accuracy. Plus or minus 20 seconds per month really is very impressive with a 3 to 4 year battery life. So really there are no negatives to the Seiko VK63 Mecha Quartz. It's a personal favourite of mine. I really like it. Accurate, reliable, the build quality, quality control, materials are all outstanding, and it's been in use in several watches for a number of years, so it's a very reliable, well-proven workhorse Mecha Quartz. Right, so lastly I'll summarise the piece. What do I think of it overall? Well, when I'm considering reviewing a watch for my channel, the watch should meet 2 criteria. It should be both excellent quality and excellent value at the respective price point. So €104 is the price point of this V3. Really, to evaluate the piece, one has to study the quality of the finishing to the head of the piece, the bezel and the caseback. They're all outstanding. The ceramic bezel insert with the tachymeter scale is done to perfection. The mirror polishing to the bezel is also done to perfection. The quality of the finishing to the head of the piece is very impressive. Beautiful luster to the flanks of the case, which are brushed satin finish longitudinally, and that contrasts very well with the mirror polished bevel machined on the edge of the case as per the Speedmaster. So absolutely beautiful finishing to the head of the piece. The stainless steel caseback is also finished to a high standard, engraved to a good standard, and no sharp edges. So really the weak point of this piece is the bracelet. Really, to evaluate it, one has to separate it into two: excellent head of the piece and an okay quality bracelet. The rattle in the push pins and also the end link, as you can see, is a disappointment, and of course the finishing needs improving because, as I've discussed, sharp edges on the centre links is unacceptable, so that needs to be improved. Better build quality, better quality control needed. However, at €104, it is worth purchasing this piece just for the head of the piece alone and wearing it on a rubber strap, NATO strap or leather strap, for example. Regardless of the bracelets, it is an excellent head of the piece for €104, even if one doesn't use this bracelet. So I think that it's still worth purchasing, even though the bracelet needs some improvement. So I'm going to declare it excellent quality, and I'm going to declare it excellent value at €104. I'm going to declare it a champagne watch for lemonade money. I like this watch so much, in fact, I've decided to add it to my own personal collection, and that really is the highest compliment I can pay a watch. So I hope you've enjoyed my review of the Pagani design PD-1701 V3. Please feel free to post your own comments below the video. Thank you very much.